now. And just a reminder, this is recording and we will be posting it on YouTube and then sharing it over to our different socials. So again, thank you for joining us today. Hi, Emily. Hi, Christy. Thank you so much for joining and being willing to give some of your time and expertise to helping us move ourselves and move our students forward. So I'm going to go alphabetically, and I'm going to start with Christy. If you don't mind telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi, thank you all so much for having me on today. I'm excited to be here and talk to you all. My name is Christie Eckerline, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Kentucky Castle. So I've been with the Kentucky Castle for about 3.5 years, and I began there as the Director of Events and then have since moved up. So my job kind of encompasses a lot of different things. I, in one regard, kind of hop in and do whatever and help with whatever needs to be done. I have a lot of human resource type aspects of my job. I have a lot of marketing aspects of my job. Some financial responsibilities, but most of that falls to our general manager. So I kind of oversee it, but we're a small business. Some people think that, we're this big business, but the reality of it is we're a very small business. And so as with any small business, you pitch in and you wear many different hats essentially. And so I wear many different hats doing what I do. But the greatest thing that I do is getting to work with the people that work at the castle and also bringing the castle and opening it up to the people of our community. That's been something that's been wonderful, opening this landmark, so to speak, and allowing people to come in. They can dine with us, come to our spa, stay in our hotel, have events here. And so those have been really the greatest joys of working at the castle for me.
That's awesome. So I just heard you say so many different things in this small business. And so I'm going to kind of let that hang out there for everybody. And we're going to come back and I want to learn a little bit more about all the things that you have going on. And it's not just a landmark, it's a bunch of things going on. So that's really exciting to hear about. All right, Emily, if you could introduce yourself and let us know what you do.
Awesome. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Emily Downey. I'm the Executive Director for Woodford County Tourism. I have a morning show called What's Up Woodford on primarily Facebook, YouTube, other social media sites, and our website. And then my day job is our President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce here in Woodford County. So I really get to do so much with our business community, both small and large, and help folks like Christie as one of our stakeholders to tell their story. For anybody who has it in a question, Woodford County, the castle's in Woodford County, and we proudly hang on to that asset here as a destination. But in all seriousness, we, whether it be promoting our town as a whole or helping businesses to get started and survive and thrive through whatever stage or season of life they're in, that really is kind of what my aim is in all of those channels of activities that I do.
Awesome, thank you. So Christy, it's a small business, but there's so many different things going on. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how you all went from where it began to what you're doing right now? I also think I heard you have a farm, maybe?
We have sometimes we call it our farm, but the reality of it is it's actually a garden. And we are also lucky enough our garden is fully utilized and worked by kids from Locust Trace Extension School. So I don't know if you all are familiar with that. It is actually a part of Fayette County Public Schools, but they have an extension program where basically the castle is a classroom. And so the children come out here and they work with Tony Myers, who's their teacher. She is wonderful, and they truly grow and cultivate our garden here, which works directly with our restaurant in supplying produce. So when we say that Castle Farm, our restaurant, Castle Farm, is farm to table, it is truly farm to table. There are people here working on it daily, and they work directly with our chef to plan out the different growing seasons and plan out what's going to be planted so that we can best utilize that within our restaurant. And our executive chef, Jason Walls, works directly with the kids, with Tony, in planning all of that out. So it's really interesting to see. I don't have a large agricultural background. So for me, seeing that and how they work together is wonderful. So not only is it farm to table, but it's literally property to table. And so, yes, we have lots of different businesses here. We have the garden / our farm. We have Castle Farm, which is our restaurant, again, farm to table. The most recent addition to our business here is our spa, which we opened in 2019. And then we have the events business, which has been rolling since 2017. And actually the Castle Post also ran events and did weddings and things prior to the current Castle ownership. And we have a hotel as well, which we have 15 guest spaces now, the most recent being our glamping tent, which is a new addition. And then we also have a cabin, which it has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. So that's another exciting thing that the people that come and stay can stay on there. It overlooks the garden and also the farm next to us, which happens to be owned by one of the Castle owners. And so we have a very good working relationship with them. So there's a lot to do on property. And it has been one of those things that coming on, I worked with the events department, but ultimately that wound up connecting with so many different parts of the rest of the business, which is kind of, I think, how I naturally grew from the director of events position into our chief operating officer. I was already working with every single department. And again, being a small business, we all work together anyway. And so people have to hop in and, help each other's customers and help each other out with, whoever's busier at the time. And our staff here is wonderful, and we're always happy to do that. But we have 15 guest spaces, and then we have 5 different event venues here. And I mean, you could even argue and say that we have more than that, because when it's nice outside, we can utilize a lot of different of our outdoor spaces for venue spaces as well. And then our restaurant has actually grown since COVID, because we kind of rolled over and took over an event venue and turned it into restaurant, so that we were able to adapt and host roughly the same number of guests in our restaurant while keeping the room capacities down to 50% is where they currently are. So the name of the game here is just adapt and roll.
Yes, definitely. And I think you all have done a great job really figuring out how you can adapt and move things around so that it can continue to grow, while so many other businesses are really finding a place to a struggle area. So that's really great. So when you were telling me you were already working with so many different departments, what do you think the ownership saw or the leadership saw in you that wanted to transition from just collaborating as a peer to moving into this position? What do you think that they saw in you that you were showing during that time of working with everybody?
I think a lot of that was probably initiative. I would, again, just because the nature of our business, so many of our departments work interchangeably with each other. And the fact that I took on the initiative to, help our clients with their hotel reservations, help them with restaurant reservations. And I didn't step back and say, oh, that's not my problem, or I don't do that. It is stepping in and it's taking that initiative. And it is a big thing that we talk about here is the culture. We want a really positive culture. We want people to enjoy working here. We kind of somewhat have a joke that the ownership really wants a kumbaya culture. And that's something that I have always embraced. You're not going to have, the hammer brought down on you. And we don't ever want people to feel like that. And so I think embracing that culture and embodying that spirit in what I do and how I have led a team also helped in that natural transition for me. And so to me, it's always about what can we do? It's not you need to do that, you need to do this. What can we do? And seeing, our employees here not as just, oh, the employees this, but truly as a team. the fact that, we all work together, regardless of what your position is, what your title is, what your duties are. We're all working together towards one goal, and embodying that in how you work and how you lead, as well as with taking initiative, I think is what they really saw in me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then as someone who, came to you as a client once upon a time, in the beginning stages, it's definitely, you really showed that as somebody who's going to go above and beyond and not just like stay within the walls of what a title could say. And so that's awesome. Very cool. Emily, if you can tell us a little bit about, we hear about the chamber, we see commercials and advertisements about the chamber, but what is the Chamber of Commerce? You told us a little bit in your intro, but can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, great question. We do everything. I call it making a good business ecosystem in Woodford County. So anything from you have a dream or an inkling of an idea and you want to start a business, how do you start that business? Where do I get a business license? How do I register my business? What are tools and resources that are available to me? Is there funding available? So we try to do all of that, whether it's just a dream and just an idea, to helping large industry grow and really thrive here. There's a lot into it, but our community is funded off of payroll tax. So the more jobs we have, which is better for an employment rate, but it also helps to fund a lot of our community services that we have. Think water, trash and recycling, and all, animal control. A lot of what we have in both city and county governments is funded by payroll tax. So not only do we want people to live, work, and play here, but we have to be able to have that infrastructure in place for them to be able to do so. So that starts early and often. So we start with working with our school system, whether it be pre-K through public or private, into higher education institutions, to connect those dots. We want to make sure we have a good talent pipeline in place, that we're preparing our students and the next generation for the jobs of tomorrow. We want to make sure they know where jobs are, so if there's certain skill sets or opportunities that are available, that we're able to just, kind of right away place them in spots that can be really great, and with, mobility, and they're good paying jobs, that type of thing. So whether it's an idea or whether it's a large industry partner, we help to foster relationships. We're a membership organization, so dues help to pay for some of the things that we do. We provide ongoing education and resources. We provide, community events. So we do a lot of public outreach, not just to our membership, but we also try to make our members become one big network or family. Because even if they don't do the core of their business here, we have so many large industry partners that you may not know exist here. And a lot of them's core business wouldn't be in Woodford County, or maybe not even in Kentucky. It could be nationwide or globally, but their employees come here, and quality of life is really important to them to be able to recruit good employees. So making sure that everything from health and wellness and education in our community is all thriving. We're all working as a team in one direction so that we can meet the goals of the bigger picture.
That's awesome. So you mentioned talent pipeline and this idea of paying attention to what kind of roles are out there and how we can help kind of build in those skills and abilities that our students, starting from K-12 and here at Midway University, our students, making sure that they're getting, the skills and knowledge that is needed, right? So thinking through what you've been talking with your industry partners, what are some of those top skills that our university students can be working on to make them look like great employees as they leave us?
Yeah. There's still the soft skills. Honestly, it's while STEM and STEAM and science and math are, high priorities, especially for a lot of these high tech jobs. That's still something that we're looking at and we're seeing, but there's still critical thinking. What the idea and what I keep hearing from industry partners is, whether it's Pilkington Glass, we can teach them the glass business. Ruggles Sign Company, we can teach them the sign industry. We can teach them at Quad Graphics, or now Sheraton. We can teach them, the book binding and all the processes that go into that. We can teach those things that are industry specific, but what we can't teach is kind of critical, logical thinking, strategical thinking, some of those things that make really good team leaders, because no matter where you are, whether if it's a manufacturing job to a small business, you have to work as a team. You have to be able to think critically and strategically. And those are sometimes the softer skills to teach, but they are definitely looking for individuals that have that drive and those types of characteristics so that they can teach them their industry. And these folks are willing to invest a lot in employees to teach them. It's not something that is even taught within a year. It can be a process. So they have management trainee programs, all sorts of things to get folks up to speed where they need. So it's a long-term investment on their part, as long as they can find the right candidate that has a passion for doing what they love and being where they are. They can teach the art of their specific industry, but critical thinking and strategic thinking, I think, are still high top priorities.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really great things that our institution has, general education, having those requirements for the general education where they can get those experiences taking critical thinking courses, and they can take courses where they focus a lot on doing group projects or thinking through how to respond intelligently to another member of their class. Even in our online classes, most of them have like discussion boards where you're reading some common piece and then responding to each other. And it's definitely something that as they are improving their writing skills, they're also improving their critical thinking skills. And we've noticed that a lot in some of our online courses. So that's really great. I also think what Christy mentioned earlier about having initiative. I think that's what I hear a lot of our employers saying is they want someone who's willing to try and do something to help instead of just waiting around to be told what to do. That's something I've noticed. So Christy, you lead a team. Tell me a little bit about some of the things that you're looking for in new coming in team members.
One of the big things that I always look for in people is the ability to take responsibility for yourself and your actions. One of my favorite things is if something goes wrong and something happens, if someone steps up and says, that was my fault, someone that can claim responsibility, I absolutely love. And to me, that is a big standout. I feel like a lot of times in today's day and age, everything is someone else's fault, and people try to off-put stuff even on, oh, well, I didn't get the email because, the technology or this or that. And anything that when someone steps up and says that was my fault and I claim responsibility for that, to me, I'm like, oh, you get a gold star for the day. Because even if you messed up, the point of messing up is for you to learn from that. And obviously, there are situations where a mess up is detrimental to something, but ultimately, everybody makes mistakes, and that's fine. And so to claim it and learn from that and not to let it be a recurring thing is huge to me. Organization. We have a lot of things going on here. So people that are organized and on top of things, that is a big standout for me as well. Time management is also something that is really important. One thing that I've noticed, especially now with COVID, so many people are working from home and working remotely, that sometimes people get that well, I've been working all day. It's like, well, have you been working all day, or have you been, doing your laundry and taking the dog for a walk and doing all this other stuff? And if you want to do that, that's fine. But then at 5 o'clock, you don't check out. So someone that's going to, put in the time and effort to do the job that's done, regardless of how long it's going to take. Now, if you have too much on your plate, that's a different story. You need to step up and say it. But some people have the idea, especially someone that's salaried, that, oh, well, I put in 40 hours, I'm done, checked out for the day. And it's like, that's not how a salaried position works. You put in the time that it takes to get the job done. And some weeks that might be less than 40 hours and some might be over. And if you have too much on your plate, then you need to step up and say, I have too much going on and I can't manage all this. I need help. And again, asking for help and being able to acknowledge that is something that I see as a very positive trait as well. Someone that's overwhelmed isn't going to be doing as good of a job as they could be doing. So having the ability to recognize that and come out and say it is wonderful to me. And then, ultimately getting along with people. being able to see other people's perspectives. Perspective is a huge thing to me, because you realize that, you know, reality is within each individual's perspective on it. So if you can see someone else's perspective, or understand that the information that you have, you're interpreting through your perspective. That might sound somewhat ridiculous, but you know, it's kind of that idea that there's three sides to every story, his, hers, and the truth, that you interpret something through your eyes. And so looking at, you know, if we have a guest that complains about something, we might have people that go, well, that's ridiculous. You know, it was like this. It's like, well, you know that and you see that, but you have a different perspective than they did. And if that's their takeaway, we need to see it from their eyes and see what we can do to fix that. So, you know, don't get upset about it. Just kind of shift your perspective and look at it from a different angle. And that is going to help you, obviously, in the hospitality business, but really in any business in my eyes, because customer service is something that, regardless of what business you're in the business of customer service, because somewhere along the line, you are selling or giving someone something, or you wouldn't be in business. And so delivering that top level of customer service and always trying to see something through the eyes of your customer, and how can we make it easier for them? How can we make it better for them? Is really going to do wonders for you. And that's something that I always look for in people.
That's awesome. So I'm trying to pull in some kind of, you know, how to take a step for our students. So especially in the perspective building, do you have any suggestions on activities or something that they can try, a practice to help the students as they're trying to learn how to take other perspectives?
Ultimately, I would say a good thing is to listen, and not listen to respond, but listen to understand, which might sound, again, kind of weird, but a lot of times when you're in the conversation with people, you might be thinking about what you can say next, and really take a step back to really interpret what someone is saying to you and try to understand that. And again, you might have a knee-jerk reaction of a response to that, but try to let go of that reactionary impulse and try to really listen and understand what someone is saying. Because whether that's in a personal relationship or that's in a professional relationship, understanding what someone's saying to you is going to take you far.
Definitely. I had somebody tell me once that stop reacting, but instead choose to respond. And you can't respond until you've actually heard everything. But a reaction is a quick, so that's great. Another soft skill that you mentioned, and I'm really curious, Emily, on how you do this specifically, and maybe get some takeaways, is time management. You have a lot on your hands, and you told us kind of a couple of different things you have going on. So can you tell us a little bit about, you know, time management, what it is, and then also how do you actually put into practice good time management skills?
Yeah, there's the fun things that we do, and then there's the things we have to do. And so one of the best pieces of advice I got early on in my career was think about a jar with big rocks. You fill it with the big rocks in the beginning of the day. So you do those big things that you have to do. And then you put the pebbles in, and then you put the sand in. It's so easy. If you think about the sand being emails, you can, open up your laptop or open up your computer and just start firing off emails and doing all these things. And you look up and it's, half a day is wasted. So as long as maybe you're not tackling the big projects you have on your plate, but you're planning and preparing for them and scheduling time to do them. I almost have to schedule planning time. I almost have to schedule planning, schedule scheduling time, if you will. Like, you have to take time to prepare and take a step back, or else everything else that you're going to do is just reactionary. So I think we can get in these habits of, everyday cycles. But if you really pause and you take some time to plan and think through it, then I think that's when big picture comes, strategy comes. So I really just try to take time to plan both at the beginning of my week and at the end of my week, so that if things get off track, I have my priorities and I know what they are, and I know what I need to get done at whatever time, deadline that is, whether I've set that for myself or somebody else's that's, impressed upon me. But at least I'm not holding people up and I can get things done in a timely manner. So I try really hard to do that because I also really value with a young family work-life balance. And, you know, you can find yourself, if you're not maximizing the time during the day, I can find myself nights and weekends. And then I just feel exhausted and maybe overwhelmed when maybe I wasn't being as productive as I could have in those 8 hours during the day. So I just really try to plan so that I can get what I need done. And like Christy said, you know, sometimes there's delegation, or sometimes there's, okay, this isn't a priority, we're going to wait, or saying I'm overwhelmed, can somebody help me? And I've got one employee here, but I have a board and a lot of great community partners. So even if they're not employees, they, you know, and they're not team members directly, there's still a lot of people out there to help and that can take on projects or help to support you when needed. So just being able to say that too, I think helps with time management.
Is there a specific tool or resource that you use to manage your time?
Well, of course, you know, phone and what do we do without our calendars? But Asana, especially for team activities, project management, you can edit things, you can repost things. You know, I definitely use Google Docs. Then I'm not having to ask, or someone's not having to ask me, where do we stand with something? It's updated real time. So as much cloud-based sharing, there's a ton of tools out there. Google Docs and Asana are just two that we use here, but anytime I can do anything where I can be as transparent as possible, so that, you know, you kind of limit some reporting because it already exists in the document, or you don't hold somebody up from having to get something from you. Or if I'm out and about, I can access it very quickly online and have it backed up and stored. So just some tools that I use.
I like those. Christy, what tools do you use to manage time or projects? Emily was kind of getting us into.
My big time tool, again, is honestly my calendar. And one thing that Emily said was scheduling time, which sounds ridiculous, but ultimately being like, okay, I have, you know, when I first get in the morning, I always go through my emails. And that first half hour, you know, if someone says, oh, can we meet this time? It's like, no, I'm busy. Being able to say, no, I already have something booked on my calendar and that is sacred time for me. You know, it's fine to say no to people or to tell them that you don't have time at that time and suggest another time. So ultimately, fully utilizing my calendar for me and blocking time to do things is what really keeps me on track. We also use Google Docs because so many of us work remotely and we work on our personal computers that, you know, we don't have some big server where we have everything backed up on. So kind of like Emily said, it's not that I'm going to work on a Word document and then email it to someone else and then they're going to change it. And then, oh, I wanted to go change it, and we have 10 different versions of it out there. It's on Google Docs and it's continually updated and we can see who did what and when they did it. So we utilize, you know, the full G Suite a ton. And then we also have for our event business, we have Gather, which is kind of our calendar of booked venues and everything. And within that, you can message and assign tasks to people and do your customer communication. And so that is wonderful. If something has to be passed off to somebody, all the information is there. And so for us in that aspect of our business, that helps with just project tracking and time management as well.
Okay, so this is a kind of a fun question. I saw somebody do somewhere else. As somebody that is from the outside that doesn't really know you, doesn't know your role, doesn't know how you do this, you know, for a small business, for a chamber, what's something that you do that no one would assume that you do because of your title? So I have a COO and I have a CEO on this call. What is something that no one would ever assume that you do because of your title? So sometimes people have been answering this like very menial tasks. Like I was listening to somebody who is a VP of an association. They're like, I take out the trash for my company. Like that's one of my things I do. No one would assume that happens because I'm a VP. So what's something that no one would assume that you do because of your title?
I would say, I mean, honestly, I come in every day. I drove in this morning and I go by our mailbox and I check the mail. I get the mail out most mornings when I roll in. And from time to time it's empty and because it's always the mail from the previous day. But I check the mail, and then I go through it, throw out the junk mail, and basically process and file it and get it to the people it needs to go to. So that's probably something that people don't assume that I would do. And then honestly, I feel like before I had my job, I didn't realize how much kind of HR work was involved in my position. But ultimately, you know, the employees and the people that we have on our team here are what makes the world go round. So without them and, properly managing them in every aspect, from, their benefits and how they're treated and how people are working together and fixing the problems that people have, that all comes back to affect the business. So I would say getting the mail and human resources.
Those are two good ones. I know Christie can probably attest to this, being in a small business, but for a long time it was just me here. So anything office related, taking out the trash and recycling, vacuuming, washing, it wasn't anything for you to see me outside washing. We've got big windows. We're a main street front store, so we need to keep those clean. We do have a chamber parking spot right out front. I always try to park as far away as I can. I like the steps. I never know when somebody might need that spot in front of me. So, and it kind of makes me walk by the other businesses to give them a wave through their window as I'm leaving, just kind of, instead of just coming into my one office and going out, it kind of helps me to be a community partner. So, those are some of the things that I do. And then I like where Christie went with HR, because I think, I'm a creative person. I'm a kind of a marketing business development background person, and I found myself in the CEO role. But finances, you have to know math, you have to know finances. I'm also our bookkeeper here. And so, and Christie is actually our treasurer of our board. So I think no matter what role you're in, you're going to find yourself having to use those math skills. So if you love it, that's great. If you don't, get to like it, because I think you never get away from math in some way, shape, or form.
That's great. Those are so helpful. So we're kind of getting close to our time today. And as I told you all before, the students watching this, we have that traditional age college student. And then we also have our working students who join us remotely. What's a parting piece of advice that you would have for anybody who's studying business with us, who's thinking through what they're doing once they walk across our stage and they get their diploma and they're ready to go out and to join you all? What's a piece of advice?
I would say take responsibility for yourself, and again, take initiative. If you see something that needs to be done, do it. If you're literally not allowed to do it and you see it needs to be done, then go to someone who is or is within that department and call it out that it needs to be done.
That's great. I would say get as many experiences as possible, whether that be internships, projects, volunteering, boards, community, involvement, whatever it is. They say on average, you can change jobs and actual careers like 7 times. So you never know where you'll find yourself and where you'll find your passion. But the more experiences you have that help shape your perspective, and bringing that perspective and knowledge is so important to any role that you come into. So I would say just don't be afraid to step up. And if it's a volunteer position or it's a board position or getting involved, if it's a weakness of yours, volunteer in that, try to build that skill set through other ways. So I would just say get as many experiences as possible. You won't regret it.
I like that. I've been told you never get stronger in something if you're avoiding it. So you have to step into that area. I love that. Well, thank you both so much for sharing your time with us today. Thank you to all of our students, faculty, and staff who have joined us today. We appreciate us all having this time together. I'm going to go on and sign us off. And when I post this, it's going to be on YouTube and then also shared over on our different social media. And if you're looking to connect with either one of our panelists, they're both on LinkedIn, and you can connect with them. Make sure that you add a note to let them know that you watched this video and that you're with Midway University. Thanks so much, and everyone have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, y'all.